Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Faster Masters Rowing Radio, where having a rowing coach only makes you better. Following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident rower who's respected by your peers. You can become the athlete you want to row with. I'm Rebecca Caro, and I'm joined by Marlene Royal.
Hello, Rebecca, and hello to our Faster Masters audience.
So today we are diving deep into self-compassion when training. And this is a great topic because experienced athletes appear to be able to push themselves really hard, which might be aspirational for someone who's slightly less experienced. But equally, we've got to respect the fact that our bodies aren't superhuman and we don't have infinite capacity for training. So I think there's a balance here. And we want to talk today about how do you find the balance in your own training? So Marlene, you've read a lot of books about self-compassion. What do they teach?
Well, I think we have to combine the teachings of the book and the big picture of training. First of all, if I were going to give a very quick definition to self-compassion, I would say be your own best friend. Honestly, if you don't look out for yourself, probably nobody else is going to do it for you. So I think, when there's a bad day, don't beat yourself up. And when there's a good day, give yourself a little pat on the back. But you do have to realize that energy fluctuates. And, just because the weather changes every day doesn't mean that there's still not a blue sky. So, if you're looking at your overall energy level, we might have the most beautifully written training plan in the world, but sometimes the work that needs to be done on a given day or is prescribed for a given day, and your energy levels simply aren't going to align. And as masters rowers, that could mean, you were up late at night because somebody in the family was sick, or you had a really stressful week at work and you just kind of need a little downtime to recover. So I think you have to always look at your energy level and make a serious assessment. Do I just need to back off and get a little bit of rest and sharpen the saw? Which is different from being lazy. Okay. Most masters rowers are not lazy. Okay. First of all, most rowers, that is not one of their features. If anything, they work too hard all the time. So I just think taking an honest look and just saying, okay, where is my energy? Is my body battery running really low? Is my emotional level running really low? If so, give yourself the time to recharge. Maybe you do go out to row, but just do something easy, do something that's regenerating. And Stephen Seiler, the physiologist, and he's has quite a lot of talks about training masters athletes, and he has talked a lot about masters rowers. One of the points that he makes is you may do 250 or 300 workouts in a given year. If a couple go out the window, this is not going to affect the big picture. So keep the big picture in mind. What's the consistency? How well are you doing? If you've got to adjust once in a while and be kind to yourself and go take a day off or just go do something that charges your batteries, I think it's important to do that, because that's going to help you maintain your quality of training and quality of life in the long run. I mean, nobody needs somebody who's run down and totally dragging their butt, right? That's not a really great way to train if you feel like you're not maintaining any level of quality or engagement. So, I think be honest.
Be honest, but isn't it interesting that actually when you are in an energy depleted state, that's the time where your judgment is often impaired. Also, and you really are not often good at making that call.
That's absolutely true. I mean, one of the main things, or people who worry or have concerns a lot, is when you're in a state of fatigue, you are not going to think clearly. You're probably not going to be very calm. And so the first thing you have to do is get yourself back to a state of calm so that you can recover. Take a pause. Pauses are wonderful things. Take a pause, catch your breath, clear your thinking, and then go back and, okay, you didn't do this day. Well, just, adjust your schedule around and put it in at another time that works better energy wise. I mean, you're still staying committed to your training or what your goals are.
Yeah, if you're on one of our programs, you will know that our workouts repeat through the month. So the fact that you didn't do it one time means that you'll have at least 3 other times to do it. You aren't going to totally miss out just because of that 1 or 2 sessions.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to tell people, if you miss 1 or 2 sessions, just, go on. If you miss a whole week of training or 2 weeks, then you have to look at, well, should I repeat those weeks before I move on to other things, because you may not have gotten, the build up to the next phase. But, a workout here and there, or a couple of days here and there, as I said, Stephen Seiler says, in the big picture, it's very minor when you look at the grand scheme of how many training sessions you might do in an entire year. So I think that's important to keep into perspective.
So having said all of that really nice stuff about being nice to yourself, there's a different side to this, which is that rowers also need to learn how to work hard. If you're working with experienced athletes, as you said, they tend to work too hard rather than back off. But learning to work hard isn't easy. And I had a situation this week where we were out in an 8, we're training for a long distance race, and I'm sure this will resonate with a lot of people who are doing head races, that we knew we were doing a long workout at a mid rate, so sub-race pace. And I think people didn't work hard, because I'm looking at the splits. And yeah, we had a little bit of time where we were in a headwind, we were in a tailwind, and I kind of mentally calculated, I think that's at least a 10-second difference from headwind to tailwind. You're like, okay, well, you build that into the split. And then overall, I looked at the end of the session and I just thought that it wasn't great. And so we were talking about, do people mentally think, I need to preserve energy? I know we're going to be rowing for 30 minutes or 20 minutes. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's not always easy. I agree with you. But I think that is where, with a good training plan, I mean, I think a training plan that's well designed will move people up to that point. You have to, they have to do a certain amount of training and have a certain amount of training under their belt, so that they've got the confidence, first of all, to know, yep, I can row this distance. Maybe that's the first thing. Maybe they're going like, oh my God, I've never rowed 20 minutes at this rate. This looks scary to me, in the back of their mind. So exactly that reason, when you repeat similar workouts a few weeks in a row, is so that you get better at it. And then maybe by the end of the month, you're better at that session, because they have to build up the confidence that they can do that. So at some point, like, you just have to bite the dust and try to do that. But I do think that is different from someone who's just going through the motions in the row. I think I agree with you. I think that is different. Giving an honest effort, even if you're not, maybe you're not in the best shape. Everybody's improving in shape all the way, but you can feel even the energy in the boat. You can tell when people are engaged. You can tell when somebody's really trying to focus, and they can only row up to what their fitness level is, right? But you can also tell, if you see those little wimpy puddles, that okay, are you just like you feel the person who's like the brick in the boat, so.
That's interesting. I think wimpy puddles is one thing, but there are also other considerations. So one of the things that can happen is, if someone is less skilled at putting the blade in at the catch compared with the rest of the crew, the boat has already started accelerating due to the effort of everyone else who has got their blades in the water. And then they can find it very hard to pick up the load and accelerate it. So I would caution criticism, but temper it with an assessment of that person's skill. And one way, if you want to try and teach that, is when you stop, get that person or that pair of people, if you're in a sweet boat, to row on their own first and then join in other pairs or other people. It doesn't matter if they're sitting at 2 or 3 in a quad. You just, lift your blades off the water so that they can have a clear row on their own, and then join in the person behind them first before you join the person in front of them, so that they really feel the difference of load when someone else joins in, and learn how to move more quickly, particularly on the placement and the pickup.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite ways of developing that in a team boat. Have somebody, have them build and increase the boat speed a little bit, and have them learn how to pick up that speed. The other thing is, this is where indoor rowing becomes really useful, because, for example, doing a piece at a set stroke rate on the indoor rower can be one way. It could be a 10-minute piece, it could be a 15-minute piece, whatever, but doing something for a set time and a set stroke rate can be a great way to teach someone how to improve their power output, how to improve their efficiency, because their goal is to increase the number of meters that they row. And that this is one place where I think the rowing machine can be very helpful at helping people learn how to row harder, and just from a psychological point of view, push themselves a bit more, because they don't have to worry about all of the skill elements of that. If what we want to develop is a bit of mental toughness, I think the indoor work can be quite useful for that. Just saying, hey, set time, set stroke rate. Every time you do this, just try to increase your meters. If you increase your meters, you're getting better, right? So that's one way. And then they start to develop a little bit better mentality, which we want them then to bring into the crew.
And of course, the thing that I like about that is that by having a little mini self-set target, increase meters, you managed this distance last time, therefore you should be able to do this distance again this time, is a reasonable assumption, particularly when you increase your fitness, which you will. By the 3rd time you're doing it, people do gain fitness really quite quickly.
Yes. Yeah. And it's such a wonderful way to do it. It's easy. And your athlete gets immediate feedback. Wow, I rode 5 meters more. I rode this many meters more. And, you take that to the boat, and this week being head of the Charles weekend, if you can push your boat, 4 or 5 centimeters more per stroke over 600 strokes of the race, that adds up to quite a bit by the time you get to the finish line. So those are things that you can work on land and bring that. But I think it's important to keep challenging the athlete at a level that's challenging. If you make things something that is too difficult and is overwhelming for them, they're going to shut down. They're not going to be able to manage that. So that, I think that's the role of a coach or a good captain on a team, is to build those things up from month to month, so that your novice people or your intermediate people, they start experiencing racing a little bit differently.
So we had a great question this week from someone who were doing their training zone tests, which is part of the Faster Masters program. We individualized the program by having you do a test, several. And this person says, can you explain the goal of the time trial? Is it an all out as much as you can give effort? To which the answer is yes. But then they go on to say, I always keep my erg resistance at 1 to reduce back strain. They had a history of some back strain in their 30s. And they say, I'm very conscious of my rowing posture, and I have a dynamic erg because I find it reduces the load on my lower back. What I'm really asking, I guess, is what would you set the erg resistance at for this piece? And my reply was, with regard to the resistance on your erg, it should be similar to the load you have in your boat. So if your rig in your boat is equivalent to a 1 on the erg, perfect. If it's equivalent to a 4 or a 6, I don't mind. The whole point is to simulate what you can do on the water. Having said that, you can do these tests on the water, but it requires you to have good technique so that you can be really consistent, and you need to have a windless day. And so if you're on a course where you can't do a long piece without having to stop and turn, that wouldn't be appropriate. It won't give you a score that reflects your ability. So thanks for that question.
Yes, and it's a good question. And now what she may find is perhaps if she's being really good about her posture and very protective of her back, she may find that if she increases her drag a little bit, she may have better results. But I think, test at the resistance, that you're training at.
Definitely. Now, our sponsor this week is the Sculling Intensive course. And this is an athlete who took the course.
Hi, my name is Trish, and I row at Texas Rowing Center in Austin, Texas. Some terrific things about this course are the focus on the mechanics of how a skull moves through the water, how a human body moves a skull, and using boat feel as a self-coaching tool. So for me, all course materials fully supported coming to the topic from that angle. So for each of the drills, Marlene and Rebecca explained how to do the drill, what the purpose of the drill was, what it should feel like if you're doing the drill correctly, what it might feel like if you're doing the drill incorrectly. And then I was able to take that information to the water and try to do the drill correctly, maybe purposefully do it incorrectly and feel the difference. And then I could do my normal row, my normal sculling technique, and see whether that felt closer to the how to do it correctly feeling or the how to do it incorrectly feeling. So I felt like all that was very insightful and really helped me hone my water and boat feel skills. And I would add that the course materials are very appropriate for all participant levels, from the novice to the very experienced sculler. If you only wanted to know a little bit about why the boat moves better in such and such a fashion, that
Okay, I think that we'll have Rebecca come back in a moment. Well, Trish gave us some really good feedback about the Sculling Intensive, and that is available on fastermastersrowing.com.
Certainly is. Here's a little bit more from Trish.
correctly feeling. So I felt like all that was very insightful and really helped me hone my water and boat feel skills. And I would add that the course materials are very appropriate for all participant levels, from the novice to the very experienced sculler. If you only wanted to know a little bit about why the boat moves better in such and such a fashion, that information was certainly there. If you wanted to understand a lot more deeply about how and why a certain technique worked, that information was there as well. So in all, I felt like the course really helped me get reacquainted with my single, really trust the boat and myself, and to hone my awareness and my self-coaching skills. I think that anyone who's thinking about taking this course should think about it as the gift that you give yourself. It's like taking your personal boat, or the boat that you use most often at your club, to a very high quality sculling camp. Using my own boat, coupled with Marlene and Rebecca's guidance on how to perhaps change some settings in my boat, I thought was very helpful as the course went along. And then, of course, I had the materials available to me, and I can see using the course materials and revisiting them again and again to constantly hone my skills.
So that was a very nice summary from Trish. So if you're thinking of taking the sculling intensive, just search for it.
If you've ever dealt with a hanging belly, love handles, or flabby arms,
well, there we go.
You never know what's going to happen here.
Plenty of that, exactly. Now, thinking about our crews who are going to the Head of the Charles, I got a lovely, lovely invite from a crew from Australia who are doing it in to fundraise for multiple sclerosis, because their coxswain is an MS sufferer. And I would love if anybody feels motivated to support them. They are rowing for a campaign called Kiss Goodbye to MS. And you can find their donation page on kissgoodbye-to ms.org/about-ms, /fundraisers. And they're a Cox 4 from Australia, and they've been training hard since, they said, December 2021. Ruth Kelly, the Cox, Eric Moore at stroke, Charles Buzzacott at 3, David Raymond at 2, and Rob Koskar in the bow seat. And they're from Leichhardt Rowing Club in Sydney, Australia. And they chose to support MS Australia because Ruth has MS. She has firsthand knowledge of the work that MS Australia, the charity, does, and is grateful every day for their incredible efforts in disease research, drug development, and supporting people living with MS. You may not know this, but it's the most common disease of the central nervous system, and currently there's no cure for it. And I know a little bit about it because actually one of my best friends has been a sufferer for many years. So the URL again is kissgoodbye-to-ms.org/fundraisers, and you'll find the Head of the Charles crew there. Now it's time for Book of the Month. Welcome to Jess DiCarlo.
Hello. So the book this month is Warriors by Danielle Britton. And she is, I'm not sure if she still is, but at least till after Rio, she was the team doctor for South African rowing. And she also happens to be the mother of 4 rowers, 2 of which are Olympic rowers, and the other 2 are rowing. I don't think they're quite old enough yet to have made the national team, but so yeah, I thought I knew how this book was going to go. I mean, I'm a big fan of one of the rowers. His name is Lawrence, and he is the second oldest brother, and he also happens to be one of the hosts of the podcast, The Row Show, which I'm a fan of. And so yeah, I thought, the book started pretty calmly with, a proud mother, of course, of her sons, the oldest of which won a gold in London 2012. And then Lawrence was in both the Rio and Tokyo Olympics, 2016 and 2020. And yeah, the first chapter was just kind of like an overview and talked about some of the other athletes in the crews. And but then it took a turn and got really interesting because it became more about her own personal struggles. And the title of the book is called Warriors. And so she herself is a warrior too in her own personal challenges. And that's where the second and third chapters went. And and then she got into being the team doctor. And that was really interesting to look at rowing through the eyes of a doctor for the rowing team, who also happens to be the mother of, at various times, one or two of the men on that team. So
what
it was really
do, Jess. What do team doctors have to do?
She basically just follows any needs that they have, while they're training, basically. I mean, it seemed more like a primary care doctor for the rowers, but, in this case, like the topic of today's podcast, which was self-compassion in rowing, I thought was really interesting because, the oldest brother had some back issues, which is very common in rowing, but then the second oldest, Lawrence, he was only 20, around 23 years old, and he began to have declining performance. So, it's because he was eventually diagnosed with cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma. Yeah. And while it has a very high cure rate, it was quite advanced. And it was kind of a stunning situation, but very fascinating. I mean, this is such a unique situation where the doctor is writing this book, and it's also her son, and her husband is also a rower and a physician. I mean, it's really kind of remarkable as a book, but I would definitely say get your tissues ready when you're reading the middle part of the book.
Really?
But
Just
it's like so many different stories. And then of course, he's totally fine now. And I don't know if he's made the 5-year, the 5 years has passed since he was diagnosed, and he's survived that. So, I don't know exactly the details of the remission, but he's definitely in remission. So, really remarkable book.
Jess, thank you. And if anyone's interested in this book and all the others that Jess has kindly chosen for us over the months, just search for Best Rowing Books, and you'll find it on the Faster Masters Rowing website. We have a very, very comprehensive list of a lot of different types of books, which you can take a look at. Thank you very much. So, any final words before we wrap up, Marlene?
Well, I just want to say, fast rowing to our head of the Charles. We do have Pedipog scullers represented, and rogue rowing represented. And so we want to wish those club members who are Faster Masters really good speed over the course tomorrow. It's supposed to be good conditions in Boston, and on we go.
And if anyone's interested in a meetup, go to the Masters Rowing International Facebook page. There is a meetup plan for 7 p.m. at the Concept 2 stand, I believe, on Friday night. It is a little bit of an historic post, so you might have scrolled down a bit to find it. But it would be cool to get a lot of masters who all know each other virtually to actually meet in person. I'm seriously hoping you guys will share some photos of the actual meetup, because obviously we haven't met a lot of you either. So, it's a dream for myself as well. So this has been Faster Masters Rowing Radio, the show dedicated to masters athletes who want fun, fitness, and confidence in their rowing. You can become a student of the sport by buying a Faster Masters Rowing program subscription today at fastermastersrowing.com/join. Till next time. Bye-bye.